Welcome to this space dedicated to the dissemination of scientific knowledge, designed for specialists, general practitioners, and students, as well as the general public interested in health. In this edition, we present a detailed analysis of the study titled Correlation between BI-RADS 4 Subcategories and Histopathological Results in Mexican Women with Breast Lesions, a fundamental work for understanding the accuracy of cancer diagnosis in our population. This research was published in 2026 by Dr. Ernesto Roldan Valadez in collaboration with a distinguished team of specialists, including José Emanuel Castro Palomares, Irma Gabriela Sánchez Rodríguez, and other experts from the Hospital General de Mexico and the National Institute of Rehabilitation. Throughout this video, we will explore how the team successfully validated the efficacy of subcategories 4A, 4B, and 4C in predicting malignancy. We will also identify key findings regarding patient age and a factor rarely explored in medical literature, the influence of lesion laterality on cancer risk. We begin this journey through medical science made in Mexico.
Legal disclaimer. This material is for educational and scientific dissemination purposes only. Its goal is to democratize access to the knowledge generated in specialized academic publications. Due to the dynamic nature of medical science, the information presented reflects the data available at the time of the original article's publication and may be subject to subsequent updates. Not medical advice. Under no circumstances does the information presented constitute a medical recommendation. The graphic resources used are only a representation of the article presented and are not completely accurate to human anatomy. For more information, you may pause the video.
Let's talk about a word that can cause a ton of anxiety, especially when you hear it from a doctor: suspicious. What does that even mean? Well, today, we're going to decode that word by digging into a really fascinating study that put the whole system doctors use to the test.
Right? Imagine that call. That one word, suspicious, can feel so vague, so scary. It just sends your mind racing with a million questions. To cut through that exact kind of confusion, radiologists actually have a really specific system they rely on.
And that system is called BI-RADS. Think of it like a universal translator for breast imaging. It was designed so that every radiologist is speaking the exact same language. So a suspicious finding in one hospital means the exact same thing in another. It's all about bringing clarity and consistency where it matters most.
Okay, so when a finding gets that suspicious label, it usually lands in what's known as BI-RADS Category 4. But here's the crucial part, and you're going to want to remember this. Not all suspicious findings are created equal. This is where the system gets really smart.
See, Category 4 isn't just one giant bucket, it's more like a risk ladder with 3 different rungs. You've got 4A, which is a low level of suspicion. We're talking only a 2 to 10% chance of it being malignant. Then you climb to 4B, moderate suspicion, which is a wider range, from 10 to 50%. And finally, 4C, which is high suspicion, where that risk jumps way up to between 50 and 95%. It adds some much needed detail, right?
So, yeah, the system looks great on paper, but how well does it actually hold up in the real world? Do these percentages really predict what's going on, especially when you look at different populations around the globe? Well, that's the exact question a team of researchers in Mexico City decided to investigate.
And that brings us to the study itself. Researchers from the Hospital General de Mexico dove into their local patient data to see how the BI-RADS 4 system stacked up against actual real-world outcomes. Let's see what they found.
So here's the game plan. They looked back at the cases of 173 women, all of who had a suspicious BI-RADS 4 finding. And here's the key. Every single one of these patients had a biopsy. So the researchers could take the radiologist's initial rating, 4A, 4B, or 4C, and compare it directly to the final definitive diagnosis from the lab.
And boom, here are the results. This chart just says it all, doesn't it? The system worked just like it was supposed to. For the women in that low suspicion 4A group, only 7.5% of the lesions turned out to be malignant. In the moderate 4B group, that number shoots up to 40%. And for the high suspicion 4C group, a full 85% were confirmed to be malignant. It's a perfect staircase of risk.
But they didn't stop there. They also looked at other factors, like age. And wouldn't you know it, they found another interesting trend.
The average age of the patients went up right alongside the BI-RADS category. The 4A patients were around 42 years old on average. That climbed to almost 48 for 4B and over 55 for 4C. Now, this trend wasn't quite strong enough to be statistically significant, but it's definitely a clue that age is another important piece of this puzzle.
So, what did these suspicious findings actually look like on the scans? Well, overwhelmingly, they were nodules. We're talking more than 83% of all the cases. That's a really interesting detail that might tell us something about the diagnostic patterns in this specific group of patients.
Okay, so everything's making sense. The B-RADS system is solid, the demographic data lines up, pretty standard stuff. But as the researchers kept digging through their data, they found something else, something they totally weren't looking for, and something that was, well, really surprising.
The data was holding one more secret. It was a pattern that was not only consistent, but it was so strong that it was, in fact, statistically significant. And here's the twist. The clue wasn't in what the finding was, a nodule versus something else. It was much, much simpler than that. It was about which side of the body it was on.
Get ready for this number. A full 83.5% of all the suspicious lesions found in these 173 women were in the left breast. I mean, that is a staggering imbalance. But hold on, because it's more than just a number.
Because here's the real kicker. It wasn't just that there were more lesions on the left. The study found a statistically proven link between a lesion being on the left side and a final diagnosis of cancer. To put it simply, in this group of patients, a suspicious finding on the left was more likely to be malignant than one on the right. Wild, right? Okay, so let's just pause and process that for a second. A system that works, an age trend, and a surprising link to the left side. What does this all mean when you put it together?
All right, let's break down the big takeaways. First, the B-RADS 4 system. It's a solid, really valuable tool for sorting out risk. 2, other things like a patient's age also seem to play a role. 3, this totally unexpected discovery about laterality, or the side of the body, is fascinating, and it definitely needs more research. And finally, this whole thing proves just how important it is to do this kind of local, population-specific research to find these new patterns.
The authors of the study really said it best themselves. A diagnosis is never about just one thing. It's about combining all the clues you have, the imaging report, the patient's age, and maybe even something as simple as which side of the body it's on, to get the most accurate picture possible.
So, we started with a single confusing word, suspicious, and we ended up with this really provocative question about left versus right. It just makes you wonder. If a study of just 173 patients in one city can uncover a pattern this distinct, what other vital clues about our health are hiding out there in plain sight, just waiting for someone to look? Thanks for joining us.
The reference for the article from which this information was extracted is displayed on the screen. Thank you very much for your attention and for joining us until the end of this analysis. If you found this review helpful, we invite you to share it with colleagues, residents, students, and anyone interested in these topics. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. This material is for educational and scientific dissemination purposes only.